Let's move to the other stories this evening. Moving to political news, the Prime Minister, speaking at the Confederation of Indian Industry, today asked industry to be optimistic. He said they should not be unduly negative and that he was confident that India would regain a growth rate of 9%. He urged corporate India to keep its faith in the government's determination. Interesting at a time that Narendra Modi has been touted as a corporate favourite. The opposition questioned the Prime Minister's statements, asked for action. But the focus also shifting now to a speech tomorrow by Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, his first ever to an industry body.
India Inc. was in full attendance at New Delhi's Ashoka Hotel for the CII's annual general meeting. Proceedings were formally kicked off by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who extensively spoke on the state of the economy. Prime Minister Singh quite candidly admitted that things have slowed down, but expressed the hope that the current mood of pessimism can easily be reversed.
I would urge Indian industry to have faith in our determination and avoid getting swamped by a mood of negativism. Corruption is a problem. Bureaucratic inertia is a problem. Managing coalitions is not easy, but these problems have not arisen suddenly. They were there even earlier, when the economy was growing at 8% per annum.
Amidst political uncertainty on whether UPA 2 would be able to complete its term, the Prime Minister listed his plan of action in the coming weeks and months. Clear 31 oil blocks worth billions of dollars in 2 weeks. Clear a 14,000 crore project of NTPC to produce 2,000 megawatt of power in Jharkhand. A project that's been delayed for 13 years has been resolved. 12 coal mining projects fast-tracked even though no timelines have been given. Roads, railways, transmission lines exempt from panchayat clearances. End to crisis of coal and gas supply to power plants. Timeline mentioned is 3 weeks. Reviewing FDI liberalization on what more can be done in the coming months.
Wishes were horses, we could all be riding. The point is that making mere statements that the economy will look up doesn't make the economy look up.
सब कुछ लुटा के होश में आए तो क्या हुआ?
While industry welcomed the Prime Minister's optimism, they will finally get to hear Rahul Gandhi's take on fixing the economy. For his speech tomorrow morning, there has been a huge rush, not just by corporate leaders, but also diplomats and politicians.
Yeah, I see some of the young ministers who are in charge of important ministries taking very good decisions. Some of the most important business and industrial persons are attending this conference. Should be exposed to all ideas, from the Prime Minister to younger political leaders like Rahul Gandhi.
Mr. Modi has been a regular at such events, but for Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it's going to be a first. And it's quite obvious that his speech will be closely watched. With camera person Vijay Singh Patwal and Manoj Thakur, this is Sandeep Pukan reporting for NDTV.
Well, joining me this evening is the Information and Broadcasting Minister Manish Tiwari, speaking there on the Prime Minister's speech. Mr. Tiwari, of course, the Prime Minister's speech watched with extra interest today after that strong statement by Janardhan Dwivedi supporting the whole Sonia Gandhi Manmohan Singh model and saying it's a model for the future. Any clarity on what that means if the UPA came back to power, a third term for Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, or a possibility of Rahul Gandhi opting for nominating a Prime Minister, similar Manmohan-like figure, that this experiment would continue if the UPA came back to power?
Well, as someone who's been the spokesperson of the party, and Mr. Janardhan Dwivedi was my chairperson of the media department, and the one thing that I have learned from my little experience is not to add or subtract to whatever the chairperson of the media department has said. The Prime Minister has spoken earlier on this. It's a model which has worked very well over the past 9 years. There has been perfect cohesion, there's been perfect harmony, and we have an incumbent Prime Minister, and we as a government are focused over the next 1 year on economic consolidation, on delivering on some of the reform processes which we had promised, juxtaposed with our social agenda, which essentially encompasses the food security bill. So therefore, our priority at this point in time is really governance, and elections are still 1 year away. So therefore, I think if you look at it in a broader perspective, it was really an endorsement of a model which has stayed the course, which has held this country in good stead over the past 9 years.
No, but Mr. Tiwari, you're saying that, of course, that you want to comment on what the chairperson of your media department said, but the fact is you are I&B minister, and he mentioned the Prime Minister, who is the head of your government. He chose to say this could be a model for the future as well. So in that sense, this is not media speculation. He made that outline. What could that possibly indicate? What's the thinking within the Congress and the government on this model for the future? Is this part of hesitancy, the reluctance, some would say, for Rahul Gandhi to be Prime Minister if the UPA came to power?
Well, obviously, in the sense that, if you have a model which has worked very successfully, and, we've delivered both on governance as well as being able to successfully manage a coalition, notwithstanding an odd hiccup here or there. So when you look at a governance paradigm, these are models which are then replicated. They become benchmarks for the future. So the statement of the Prime Minister and the statement of the chairperson of the media department, really need to be seen in that broad perspective.